NASA has occasionally used image processing techniques, including image enhancement and color correction, to improve the clarity and visual quality of their photos. This is a common practice in many fields, including scientific research, journalism, and advertising. Interestingly, in recent years, people who have worked for NASA have come forward and opened up about this practice, saying that they were one of the individuals who was tasked with editing these images. As of right now, it's reported that NASA does not airbrush or manipulate their photos to hide evidence of advanced life or other secrets, with the agency saying that NASA is committed to transparency and sharing accurate information about its missions and discoveries. In fact, NASA has made many of its images and data publicly available to the scientific community and the general public. The agency also encourages independent analysis and research of their data and images. With that being said, it hasn't stopped people from coming forward with their stories. One user on social media posted the following story. "My dad was always a secretive man. He's been in the military his whole life and wouldn't really share some of the things he'd witnessed. One of his last jobs was working in an unknown department at NASA. Weeks before he passed away, he started to open up to the family, talking about his experiences in the military and telling us about some of his regrets. One thing he wished was that he spent more time with the family, saying that after years of being loyal to the military and his country, all it's left him with is a small house and a family that he pushed away. A few days after this, he told us that the department he worked in at NASA was a photo lab, and in here it was his job to analyze images that had been taken by NASA instruments. He said the lab had restricted sections which only a few people were allowed to go into, and here they would develop the photographs and start the process of editing. After he answered several of our questions, it turns out that in many of these mosaic photos were strange objects, which he said were unidentified crafts that were interested in many of these missions, especially during the early years of space exploration. He detailed that we wouldn't believe the amount of objects that had to be edited out of these photos, and said that it was a full-time job removing them. He said a lot of those who were on these missions talked about their experience and revealed that these crafts following them, and said that they would give these objects code names. After this conversation, my dad only touched on the subject a few more times before he would pass away. The whole experience came across as my father's final push to reveal the truth about what he had encountered, and none of what he said came across as disingenuous. He didn't want us to do anything with this information, but according to him, it was a huge relief to finally talk to someone about it. It makes me wonder if this final confession allowed him to be at peace." End quote. Truth is stranger than fiction, and over the years there's been many bizarre accounts that involve the government and mysterious creatures. Being one of the most well-known cryptids ever reported across North America, the Jersey Devil has entered popular folklore and has been referenced in nearly all forms of mainstream media, from books to movies and even in modern video games. What many fans of this ancient creature aren't aware of, however, is that back in the early 1800s, it's believed that the United States government led a clandestine mission to hunt down the Jersey Devil and remove it from the Pine Barrens area located around New Jersey to prevent the creature from wreaking havoc on the nearby communities. According to official reports surrounding the Jersey Devil, one of the oldest reported encounters with the creature centers around a covered-up mission between the United States Navy and United States President James Monroe. According to the reports regarding the incident, back in 1819, United States President James Monroe, curious about the legends of the creature, sent two men, a naval officer Stephen Decatur, Dr. James Killian, and a small group of men, to investigate the Pine Barrens claims. By this time, naval officer Stephen Decatur was already a world-renowned captain of the United States Navy, having reached the position at only 25 years of age. Dr. James Killian was a world-renowned naturalist, having published several books on what would later be known as the field of zoology, with a special interest in exotic animals, similar to what would now be considered a cryptozoological fascination. Interestingly enough, a declassified government mission featuring Naval Officer Commodore Steph Decatur, alongside a small team of people, is recorded as having occurred back in 1819, in which the team of men travelled to Pine Barrens to perform a quality check on the iron industry, with the designation to inspect and test some of the privately produced armaments, such as cannonballs. The team was reported by the United States government as having landed at the Burlington County Harbor and investigating the communities of Batstow and Hanover for unknown purposes. The official government report, however, claims that the men experienced nothing out of the ordinary and merely tested some of the equipment and met up with private factories and their managers. However, the truth is that the rest of the story deviates from the government report, claiming that though the men did inspect the armaments and the factories throughout the Pine Barrens region, many of the men seemed more interested in striking up casual conversation about local legends. After alerting the naval men and Dr. James Killian to the legends and sightings of the devil, Officer Decatur decided to set up a temporary residency at a cabin located within the Pine Barrens, where the monster had been recently sighted. Although the details get somewhat hazy, surviving members of Decatur's crew claimed that the men were attacked in the night by the creature, with 2 men having been eaten by the creature, and Officer Decatur, Dr. James Killian, and a handful of the crewmen having taken down the creature after shooting the beast several times in the body. Before retiring for the nearest community after the attack, Dr. James Killian was reported as having performed a quick animal autopsy on the creature, determining that the beast was a natural inhabitant of the area and not of a supernatural origin. After cutting open the womb of the creature, Dr. James Killian discovered the monster to have been pregnant with several pups of the strange dragon-like monster and theorized that the creature must have a surviving small population within the area that would need to be dealt with. The claims end that Dr. James Killian preserved one of the fetuses of the creature in a jar for further examination and private ownership. The whereabouts of this specimen is still unknown in the modern day. Interestingly enough, the claim that Dr. James Killian made surrounding the creature's design, of it appearing to have been a native dragon-like species, sounds eerily similar to ancient Native American legends local to the region. Native American Indians are known to have inhabited the area for around 13,000 years after the most recent ice age. One of these tribal groups, known as the Lenni Lenape or Lenape Indians, occupied the lower Hudson River Valley and the Delaware River Valley, along with the lands that reached eastward to the Atlantic Ocean that are now known as the state of New Jersey. The early European settlers referred to the Lenape Indians as the Delaware tribe. During the occupation of the land by the Lenape tribe, they referred to the area around the Delaware River as Popuessing or Place of the Dragon. After the Swedish explorers came, they referred to the Delaware River as Drake Kill, which is a combination of 2 words meaning Dragon River. In doing more research using old maps, it can be seen that there is a creek just across the Delaware River in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area called Poquessing Creek, which is a tributary to the Delaware River. Within the same area is a place called Drake Kylan, which translates into French as La Rivière des Dragons, or the River of Dragons. Given Dr. James Killian findings and his recommendation that the native dragon-like species must be dealt with to prevent future attacks, given their rate of having offspring and the growing availability of livestock and cattle throughout the region, it appears that the natural dragon theory is proving far more viable than existing early colonial legends. Although there was no evidence that the United States government would perform any actions at the time, roughly 20 years later, reports of the monster would change how it was perceived. According to the Pine Barrens Museum, during the summer of 1840, the communities surrounding the Pine Barrens forest suffered from mass sightings of the Jersey Devil, then known as the Leeds Devil creature, with claims that more than one Jersey Devil was prowling through their communities and attacking their children and livestock. During the year, record sightings of the creature were made, with reports of farms having been completely destroyed by the creature, as chickens, goats, cows, and horses were described as having been seemingly mauled by a large animal, or suffering from wounds that appeared as if the livestock animals had been dropped from a terrible height. The sightings and attacks would continue until 1841, with a sudden religious hysteria taking over the surrounding communities, as residents local to the area were desperate to find any means to stop the sightings of the creatures, either through spiritual protection or through physical protection. However, relief would suddenly come during the year, as sightings of the creature slowly died down and normalcy resumed by the winter months. The cause for the disappearance of the Jersey Devil sightings is unknown, though several theories have spawned claiming that the United States government was responsible for the hunting and eradication of the creature or creatures. Every single passing day, a variety of many different people from across the world make predictions about the future of humankind in an attempt to better understand and combat changing industries, personal obstacles, and tragic events that may spell out doom for the rest of us. These predictions could come from self-proclaimed psychics, emerging technologies in artificial intelligence, investors looking to predict future decisions and impacts on the economy, or government research to provide intelligence relative to policy impact and decision-making. But shortly before he passed away, world-renowned research scientist Dr. Stephen Hawking had some predictions of his own. The most surprising of Dr. Stephen Hawking's predictions was his sudden transparency before his passing relative to alien intervention. In fact, the late research scientist claimed that alien contact would most likely occur within the next century, if it has not already. He further goes on to warn us about the potential disaster of trusting an alien species, and explains that not only should we remain vigilant, but that an advanced race would have ulterior motives that may be unpredictable on the short-term scale, given their technological development and superior intellect. Claiming further that any intelligent alien species could not ever be fully trusted. This is an interesting prediction, and may very well be the case over this next century, as developments in spacefaring technologies are being worked on and made along with the fact that new reports of alien technologies keep surfacing. The Disclosure Project has already been responsible for the disclosure of a massive amount of government documents tied to alien investigations. This has caused amateur researchers to suggest that within the next few decades, more and more of these documents will come to light, proving that certain establishments know more than what they're letting on. Former military and government officials have spoken out about this and said that during their careers they were told about advanced life forms, which made them completely change their outlook on life. All we can do is wait patiently and hope that this evidence reaches the masses. So, what do you make of these interesting stories? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.